we dreaming?
I'd like to think so.
This week's movie, Who Am I? I'm a billionaire recluse with an army of indentured servants who coerces a number of children into ever-increasingly elaborate traps, possibly murdering them. Stay tuned to find out. You're listening to the Banana Reel Movie Podcast, episode 45. Warning, this show contains spoilers and coarse language, so you've been forewarned. Hey there, folks. We are the Theatre Gorillas. My name is Carlos.
I'm Heath.
And I'm Dan.
And Heath is playing with the toys on the sound card.
Yeah.
Once again.
Okay, I'm done.
Each and every week we get together and discuss, or not every week anymore, it's fortnightly.
Fortnights.
So we get together fortnightly and we review or discuss something that we have watched in detail. And this week it's Captain America Civil War, and I'm partially inclined to say it's Avengers 3.
Yeah, kind of almost.
Avengers 2.5.
2.5, yeah. Before we get into it, though, the usual spiel, I'll keep it as short as possible. You can find us in various social medias. Just go to our website and you can get direct links from there. So our website is theatregorillas.com, or if you want to send us a direct email, you can do so, theatregorillas@gmail.com. And of course, please rate and subscribe on both YouTube and iTunes because it helps.
Yes. We can't really rate on YouTube, but give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs ups. Thumbs.
We don't want thumbs down.
Just thumbs.
No, because then you're encouraging thumbs down. We don't want thumbs down.
Just
it's
thumbs
like
up.
YouTube murder.
That's
no, not
true.
really. We want subscriptions actually on YouTube, so subscribe.
Yes.
Send us some love.
And hopefully, yes, soon we'll actually you'll be able to see our beautiful faces.
Yes.
A beautiful faces.
Our beautiful faces.
Well,
This is going really well.
So well so far.
All right, so to get into it, I'm going to pose a question. Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
Team Cap.
Dan?
yeah, I'm indifferent.
Indifferent?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can understand both their motivations.
So you're more like Italy in this one?
Well, no.
Do you mean Switzerland?
Because Italy sided with the Nazis and then
Yeah, they
turned
slid
on
over,
them
didn't
when
they?
they failed miserably.
No, okay. There we go.
So no, I'm not a turncoat, if that's what you're asking.
Wow. I feel like
Should
we
have had
should
the
just restart
Goal to stick with the ship till the end.
that. All right. Me personally, I've always been a fan of Iron Man simply for the tech. But given the motifs behind the arguments, they try and persuade you to be more towards Team Cap.
Well, you know what's actually funny? I'm actually going to argue with you on that one because I found that they actually made it that where it was positive for both. So you could actually be going for both teams, as in they made both ideologies quite persuasive.
Yeah,
So
and
they
that's what I was getting at when I said I'm indifferent, because it's sort of both sides are justified.
Yeah, exactly right. But at the same time, I think that's where your own personal allegiances go. I don't know. I kind of felt more that I think having those restrictions and rules on powered people. I mean, granted, this is like if we lived in that universe. You know, it should be there for people who want it, as in if you want to register yourself, if you want to be sign up to that law, that's fantastic. But you shouldn't be made to. No government should make anyone do something they don't want to do.
But that's the irony of the whole argument,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that completely devalues the entire process. Like, what's the point if it's going to be voluntary?
If it's going to be voluntary.
That was the whole point. It's meant to be mandatory so they know where the mutants are, where people with
the
superpowers
powered people are. Exactly right.
If it's voluntary, then there's no point in having it in the first place. You may as well just have a sign saying, please don't be bad.
Yeah, but then also like Captain America said, it puts them in the situation where what if there's something that they need to go and stop and they can't?
Yeah, so there's an argument against signing the Accord at all.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
there's no middle ground there. It's either it's mandatory or it's not at all.
Yeah, exactly it.
Yeah.
I also feel that...
Actually, that's a good point. So you swayed me there.
Even though Tony Stark's the character Tony Stark in this movie is plagued with guilt, which is why he sides for...
I think we're jumping forward to here a bit. Let's go back to the start of the movie and actually discuss how this all came about and the motivations behind the UN in formulating the Sokovian Accord.
All right, so... The start of the film, we have the usual... Well, they're basically the Avengers running around doing their thing. Mm-hmm. And throughout the process, they come across someone that they've faced before in previous Captain America film.
Crossbones.
So he is now Crossbones. And through the altercation, they end up on the streets, meeting people around. And Scarlet Witch tries to save Captain America, She doesn't want to see him get blown up.
Well, and the people in the market as well.
Yeah, she was trying to. Yeah, she was.
She's doing her job.
Yes.
Yeah, basically her actions led to less people dying than would have if she'd done nothing.
Yes.
Which is where the whole moral underpinning of it is this idea, is it better to divert a train that's going to kill 6 people or let it go and have it kill 10 people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're manifesting yourself into the decision when you actually make a physical choice there. Yeah. So that's the whole, the moral underpinning of this whole idea.
Yeah.
So in doing so, she ends up accidentally killing some Wakandans that were in a building for
was
some
it in Wakanda?
No.
That's right. There was Wakandans.
It was the first time in
delegation.
First time in years that they had left their own nation.
Yeah.
And it was for peace talks or something or other.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they get killed. So that in turn brings Tony Stark's. You see it from the very beginning. Tony Stark is still feeling problems of PSD.
I think what it is, it reinforces the misgivings he's had about the whole Sokovian incident. So it's just another sort of thing to add to his moral quandary. You know, he's already concerned about the fact that innocent people are dying, and then this is just another thing to add to the pile. It's like, well, fuck, we've done it again.
Yeah.
But it's also not even just that he's already got just what happened in Sokovia. And this is actually something I really liked with this movie in parts. They tied in, or New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
They tied in Sokovia. They tied in the stuff that they've already done, like the fact that Ultron was a creation of Tony Stark. So he's got that compounded guilt as well of the fact that, wait a second, a lot of the shit that's happened is either one, my doing, or it's got something to do with us in general.
Yeah.
Well,
Washington, they even brought up, when the helicarriers came down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, out of everything they mention, okay, so let's take a look at that. So you've got New York, which was an alien invasion, which they were there to wipe everyone out anyway.
Yes.
They saved the world there. So, and on top of that, the government wanted to launch nukes.
Yes.
And wipe out the city. So,
interestingly, one thing that they didn't mention at all in Civil War, which I thought...
No, they didn't.
It's convenient for the storyline, but still, you would have thought Cap would have had a snappy retort to that. You know, like, well, you were going to fucking nuke the city. What did you want us to do?
Yeah,
but
exactly right.
They sort of left that untouched. I thought was interesting.
So in the people that are arguing, one is you've got Tony Stark, but he brings in his good old friend General Ross, who is now senator or something.
He's now the Secretary of State.
There we go. So he's now Secretary of State. He's been promoted, but he has always been against mutants regardless.
Well, powered people. We should not use the word mutants.
We know they're
Marvel's
mutants.
not allowed to.
Yeah.
So he's already against them. So he's going to manipulate everything like he does whenever he's dealing with the Hulk anyway.
Yeah, which I did like that because even though they were saying how it's a different Thaddeus Ross from the Hulk, they still fucking played a nod to it.
And it was still William Hurt.
Yeah, it was. But it was also the fact that they didn't do the good old, we'll just sweep it under the rug. Like
the
a lot.
retcon.
Yeah, but they actually did go, I've had dealings with. He actually does say that, I've had dealings with. And it's like, fuck yeah, you have. That was an awesome film. Anyway.
And so we've got that. And so that's the first thing that I find hard to sort of understand because they were ready to nuke the city.
Yeah.
Then you got Sokovia.
Yep.
Right? And in Sokovia, granted, Tony Stark was the one at fault for creating Ultron in the first place, but he lifted a goddamn city ready to wipe out the entire globe.
Human race, yeah.
I'm sorry, but when you look at that logistically, it's either everyone dies or the nation dies. You don't have much of a choice.
But they didn't destroy the nation. That's the thing as well. I could see this is where I go.
They saved as many people as they could.
They fucking saved heaps of people. And if they did not intervene, exactly right, that would have destroyed the entire world. Would have been destroyed.
I mean, all of this is rather incidental, though, when you take into consideration the fact that the people pushing for the Sokovian Accord are politicians.
Mainly,
this is all about politics. It's not about reality.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
And this is probably the first of many comparisons we'll make to Batman versus Superman, but that's one point where I felt this movie was superior in that one of our biggest criticisms of BVS was that it put on the facade of dealing with global politics, but there was no actual substance to it.
Yeah.
Whereas here it is, they're playing hard international politics, like I said, the whole point of the Sokovian Accord is because that's the way politicians see the Avengers. You know, they don't look at the details, like the fact that they saved, millions of people.
Look at the aftermath.
Exactly. They look at the casualties and they look at their constituencies who are saying, hey, all these people died, you got to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's the way politics works, It's superficial, it's not necessarily grounded in reality, but it's the way it works.
The other thing that you mentioned, that you feel that this was superior than BVS. Another thing that I would would say that it makes it more superior than BVS is also that because we've had the films in the past where you've seen those events in full detail, when they bring it up in relation to what they want to achieve with the signing of the Accords, it has more weight.
Yes.
And you have more of an understanding of what's the reasoning actually why they're trying to push it.
Well, exactly. Well, when you're 12 movies in, you kind of have a what's the word I'm looking for? It actually makes it almost real. So you can actually feel, oh shit, I understand where these people are coming from. I know why they want it to go through. And so you do get that connection with it that BVS just did not have.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really great. One thing though, did you notice that they didn't actually mention Wakanda aside from the delegates that were killed? Because remember in Age of Ultron, when Hulk and Iron Man have their big biffo, that's in Wakanda.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it's like as if they wouldn't be saying, like Wakanda going, and you destroyed fucking part of our, one of our cities when you had your big biffo with bloody the Hulk.
I mean, I assume it was all under the same umbrella of, hey, you guys are fucking shit up.
Totally right. Yeah. Exactly right.
But
the fact that they referenced the three other events, you thought they would have kind of brought that in as well.
I guess.
They could have, but I mean, what you take from that movie isn't so much what the Iron Man fighting Hulk, it's more so that an entire nation was raised.
Oh, no, totally.
Off
Exactly
the ground,
right.
Oh, yeah. So
it was a good fight scene, but I just think I like movie tie-ins, and that's what I think one thing Marvel does incredibly well.
Well, they did tie in Thor and Hulk. I mean, Ross
that
even
was
says,
a great comment.
If I had 2 missing nuclear warheads, I would be doing all my best to find out where they are.
And I just loved that line where he goes, do you know where Banner and Thor are? And everyone's just looking at each other, because that's exactly right. And I loved that as well because, one, it does give that mystery to the viewer of where are they? What are they doing?
Well, I mean,
what's going on?
Thor's still in Asgard, isn't he?
You'd hope.
Yeah.
But you don't
that's a very
know.
good point.
They don't know that.
But
Because
the other thing is that this is primarily, it's Captain America Civil War. So it's Captain America. It's a story about the people, the humans, rather than the over-the-top mutants such as Thor, well, not Thor, but Hulk and the
They're
gods.
not mutants.
Yeah.
We don't call them mutants.
I know that, but that's ingrained in me.
the enhanced.
The enhanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, just quickly on this whole idea, just before we move on, this whole idea of Marvel being able to do these big ideas better than BVS did. I think with 12 movies behind you, you can afford to be ambitious and have it pay off.
Yes.
Whereas BVS aimed incredibly high and there was no sort of context to any of it.
Yeah.
So like you said, we're just left in the lurch going, all right, this seems like it's a really big deal, but we don't know anything about these characters or we don't know enough to be able to establish
Whereas with BVS,
why.
for example, with the introduction of Diana, it could have been played either one of 2 ways. One is you have a little key moment with her appearing, then Bruce Wayne sees the photo and realizes, okay, there's more to this person, and then we could see her at a later event.
Like I said in the BVS review, BVS should have come after the Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it leads perfectly in to the end of her story. Like, take the end of what's the last Marvel? The end of Age of Ultron or the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
Winter Soldier leads perfectly into this because Bucky's back into it. You're like, okay, I know the history of this character now because we've explored him on screen in Winter Soldier, and he turns up, and you're like, okay, I understand that.
Yep.
Whereas Diana, once you see Wonder Woman, I guarantee you'll be like, so that's why she was in BVS. But it's like, you can't do things backwards.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from BVS because I think we've expressed our opinions there. Yeah.
So in saying that as well, like with the reasons to push the Accord, the other thing that doesn't agree with me is the fact that Tony is blinded by his PSD.
Yep. His guilt.
And his guilt, and in doing so, all the reasons that he has are justified, but they're clouded. Which turn, by the time the movie comes to its full resolve, everything that he stands for is already corrupted, which is just pushing Captain America's agenda. more and more truthful.
See, I think that's why a Civil War is clever. Because instead of being mired in this, I'm on this side because of such and such, I'm on this side because of other things, it escalated. So as the movie progressed, the stakes got higher for the individuals involved.
Yes.
Like however tenuous, that their allegiances were to either side at the beginning, they sort of get forced further and further down the track that they've already started pursuing.
Yeah.
So it becomes beyond their control to be able to, to be able to decide rationally where they should be headed. Because even during, the penultimate scene, they're still joking with each other. They're like, so are we still friends? I think Hawkeye says that to...
Are we pulling punches? Or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the trajectory just sort of, pushes them down this inevitable de-evolution of their relationships and the ultimate climax.
Yeah. And I think as well, and that when you say that, how the journey that these characters go on, I think it's so well epitomized in Black Panther, T'Challa.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, we get introduced to him with his father, and then brutally his father gets killed in that bombing attack. And straight away you've got this guy who's out for blood. He's out for vengeance. And as he continues on, I actually feel like he had so much growth in this movie as well. He kind of starts to wane and realize that vengeance is just not the road to go on.
Yeah. Well, he only realizes that right at the end.
Absolutely. But in saying that, I don't mean to cut you off, but in saying that, Black Panther's journey throughout the entire movie is completely vengeance, and he is one of two characters in this movie that is completely out for blood until the very end with the final fight scene.
Yeah, he has his redemption at the end.
He does. But see, I think the way that they do that is really well done too, because he knows the truth. He knows what actually happened, but he then made that choice to go, you know what, I'm not going to go down this road. And he also didn't let Zemo go down that road either, which I fucking loved.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that.
I have to say, this is my personal opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think Zemo is probably one of the more complex villains that we've had since probably Loki.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I'm really glad he didn't die.
I'm glad. I'm glad he wasn't disfigured or anything like that. Because personally, I'm not a fan of what his original look is.
Yeah. Oh, and the purple,
pink, isn't it?
Oh, it's like a purple fucking mask. It's odd. Anyway,
but no, I liked his arc. I liked the fact that he wasn't after anarchy. He wasn't after the red herring that they throw in the movie.
Yeah.
Of the other Winter Soldiers that you think he's going to wake up.
Yeah. Oh, that was gold as well.
It's just quite simply, you took something away from me.
I'm going to take
the tool that was used to take my family away from me. I'm going to break it.
Yeah,
that's his ultimate motivation. That's
I mean, I don't think he's a particularly sophisticated character. It's a pretty straightforward revenge plot. He's not necessarily particularly nuanced.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and there's problems with the execution of his plan as well. Like the final scene. How did he know Iron Man was going to turn up? And he prepared this video for him, knowing that he would turn up and that would be the climactic battle. Like it was all a little...
that's a little bit of a,
convenient.
A bit too convenient. But at the same time, because I kind of see it as he was just getting that video and he was just going to somehow get it to Iron Man anyway. Granted, that's like a bit of a long bow. But at the same time, that kind of didn't worry me that much.
We had exactly the same conversation about this in BVS, and I'm sorry to go back to it again.
Yeah.
But exactly the same conversation about Luther's motivations in BVS.
Actually, you're very right now. Now I'm remembering.
Yeah. But that being said,
Luther's
he had a better motivation, and you could understand his character more than you could Luther.
I cared a lot more for his character than I did Luther.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the point as well. I actually cared what what he was trying up to.
Yeah,
like I really cared about what his mission was, and like I said, that part where with the other Winter Soldiers, I was like, oh fuck, he's going to raise an army. Oh fuck.
Yeah,
but then to have it that he's not. And that his whole plan was just to destroy this team. Fucking brilliant.
I just love the fact that when you go in there, I know we've jumped right towards the end, but when you enter that chamber and you see them all with bullet holes in their heads, it's like, oh, okay, well, what's going on here? And then you realize once the video starts playing, and you realize what the whole intention is.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, a few commenters online missed the fact that he shot all the other Winter Soldiers.
Really?
Yeah. A few people have jumped to the conclusion that he turned up and they were already dead. It's
No,
like, well,
'cause-
no, that was the point of the bullet holes. He very deliberately came and murdered them all.
And you
That
see a
was
shot
his
of them
end game.
before as he enters there, and
Exactly,
there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
bullet hole.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just a little
Really?
Yeah.
People miss that?
scratching my head at that. Yeah.
Okay, odd.
All right, so let's come back to we got this the Sokovian Accords,
Yep.
the inevitable build-up of animosity between the two teams. Do we jump straight to the second act free for all?
You mean the big fight scene?
Yeah,
No, can I actually say add something a bit that comes up a bit before that?
yeah.
Because you know how one of the big things is after that they put kind of Scarlet Witch on lockdown.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Under house arrest.
Under house arrest, basically.
Yeah.
And, saying and what I loved actually with that is the most of it anyway was her and Vision.
Vision, yeah.
The dialogue between those two, one, because I'm a comic book fan, I know that Scarlet Witch and the Vision actually end up getting married. But two, one thing I absolutely fucking love with that is, one, I think it's the dialogue where he says, they're afraid of you, or they're afraid of you because of what you can do.
Yeah.
Because she is essentially pretty much one of the most powerful people, or the most powerful person in that group. But the only person who's not afraid of her is the Vision. And it's because he's just as powerful.
Yeah.
What
And
I
his
also,
fear of the Mind Stone, fucking gold.
what
That
I
was-
find
yeah, that was a
interesting
good
though,
bit of,
Yeah.
what I find interesting though is they put her under house arrest, but I think it's more so because she's the first human to go under this transformation and to see what potential outcome can be.
Yes.
And the fact that she, quite in essence, has already broken the Avengers down.
Yeah.
That's why they're really afraid of
yeah.
her, because she's able to get into their minds and so forth.
Yeah.
But what I find more than ironic is that Vision is the one that's supporting Iron Man in the whole lockdown of Scarlet Witch, saying they're afraid of you because of what you can do. Yet he's the one, by accident, by luck, by circumstance, he's the one that ends up putting War Machine in hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And because, see, that's the thing as well. And this is where, once again, it's because they are the two most powerful people on that group. Like, essentially, the most powerful in the way of their ability. They are the most powerful people. And, yeah, I kind of go, was that an accident? Because the thing is, if he didn't get War Machine, he was going to get Falcon.
He was after Falcon.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I mean. So he's either going to kill Falcon or he's going to, but he didn't. Instead, he missed and he gets War Machine. So no matter what, someone's going to die.
I'm not sure that he aimed to kill either of them.
What do you think that would happen if the same thing? What happened to War Machine would it be exactly what would have happened to Falcon if he hit a Falcon? He wouldn't have died, but he would have fallen a fucking long way down. And on that note, that scene of fucking War Machine falling, how fucking well done was that?
I like the fact that it also comes back to him being from the Air Force.
Yes.
And just the little dialogue of flying dead stick.
Yeah.
And so forth. Like, you get a little bit of his background as an Air Force pilot come back, and I thought that was a nice
That
little
was
touch.
great. But the black, I like it how you see inside the helmet, all the power go off.
Yeah.
And then as he's falling,
I like the fact that there is no hum, no music, nothing.
No.
I can't remember if there's any music.
I think it's just the sound of the
But
fall.
the sound of the air whizzing in through what gaps of the helmet there are.
Yeah.
That I liked. I just find it interesting, though, that he's falling and no one can catch up to him, though.
Well, if you think about it, though, so the weight of the armor and him at the height hitting a certain velocity probably because no matter how, depending on how high they were, he may have hit escape velocity. There's no way they could have hit him in time safely.
Weight wouldn't have made a difference.
Pardon?
Weight wouldn't have made a difference. If he was in a plastic suit, the same
Actually, no, you're exactly
dimensions,
right, because
yeah.
exactly that height, that's what the velocity you hit.
Yeah.
But that actually made my, like, as I was watching, I felt so tense, my heart was going.
See, the reason why I say I don't think Vision aimed to try to kill either of them is because I don't think any of them anticipated that anybody on the opposite team would get seriously injured until that final fight scene. They were all like, we're all super beings here, They're fighting not for their lives, for their principles. So nobody ever assumed that somebody was going to get seriously injured. And that's why War Machine's fall had so much emotional impact, because Vision saw it and he's like, shit. That wasn't meant to happen.
Yes, agreed.
Nobody expected that.
But it also comes back to his conversation with the Scarlet Witch, which
That's
is
true. Yeah,
sorry.
or one of his discussions earlier anyway, where he says, inevitably there will be casualties.
Yeah.
And it's actually, you see, once again, you going back to the whole point where they didn't think someone was going to get hurt, and that's exactly right as well, was because, I mean, even you got that pulling punches line. Throughout that entire fight, it didn't actually feel like they were fighting each other.
No,
Like, it's not like that when they were fighting the aliens or fighting Ultron. It wasn't where they were out for survival. It was more just to stop them.
I find at the end of that whole scene where Iron Man pulls off Rhodes' helmet and then Falcon comes in and apologizes.
Yeah.
I find that's another sign that Tony Stark is so unhinged.
Yeah.
That he can't really be trusted with his own devices. Which kind of shows why he wants people to sign the Accord, because can they really be trusted?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what happens?
Doesn't he shoot him?
He shoots him point blank.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Granted, he's only stunned him, but you can see the aggression in him.
yeah.
So I just find it interesting that not that this line of topic goes anyway, but I just find it interesting that he's so unhinged that he really needs to have the Accords signed.
Yeah.
Because he needs some control.
Yeah.
But going back to the fight scene, just beforehand.
Wait, which fight scene?
So the airport scene.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the part that you want to talk about, that airport?
Well,
scene?
yeah, we were making our way there.
Okay, good.
Because I was going to say the War Machine thing. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah,
go
cool.
on.
Yeah, so that was a part of the end of it. But
Yeah. Where you can tell we're on topic. Anyway.
what I wanted to talk about is an introduction of another character.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man is coming back to Marvel, even though it's being licensed back to them through Fox,
Sony.
It's getting harder and harder to track everyone. What did we think of Spider-Man?
I fucking loved it.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
I think his the choice of actor in terms of giving a Peter Parker plus a Spider-Man, I think the balance is actually really well done. I think it was quite nice.
See, I think what they got right this time that the Raimi movies and the Garfield didn't was in the writing for the character as well. He actually sounded like Peter Parker.
Yeah.
You know, a cocky, brash young kid who's like, when
From
he
Queens.
when he meets Bucky, he's like, cool, a metal arm.
Yeah.
Like he's meant to be like this precocious young kid who doesn't know anything about the world.
Completely starstruck by everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's also, exactly, because he's a kid who's been, given these great powers.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where the whole with great power
Yeah,
comes
that's
great
the
responsibility
underlying
as well.
philosophy.
Which they
Philosophy of
dodge
it.
around it. But did you notice the way he explains, because they're trying to get away from with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So the way they explain his reasons for doing this when Tony Stark asks him.
Which can I also say was a great moment, like that scene in Queens with him and Tony Stark. Fantastic. Keep going.
Yeah, so the way he explains it, I can't remember word for word, but the way he explains it is pretty much exactly what Cap says.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Did you guys ever notice that?
No, because doesn't he say, it's like, because Tony says, why do you go out and do this stuff? Like, why do you do that? And he says, because, doesn't he say something? Because I'm responsible to help those who can't help themselves or something along those lines?
When something happens where you had the power to stop them and you did nothing, that's your fault.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Which
what I
is
meant.
exactly Captain America's argument.
Yeah.
And yet Tony ignores it. Why? Because why does he ignore that?
I don't think he ignores it. I think the fact is that their underlying philosophies are the same, but it's in the manifestation of that in the real world that they disagree.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So Iron Man, still believes that, but he believes there needs to be controls
Like a
and measures put
regulation
in
in
place.
place.
Yeah, to stop escalation to the sort of situations that happened previously.
I just found with Spider-Man, I found that his explanation of his with power comes great responsibility is that by definition the same thing that Captain America said.
Yeah.
And yet he, without really knowing anything, because he's so starstruck, he joins Iron Man's side because he's going to give him new gadgets and he gets to work with Iron Man.
Yeah.
That's true, interesting. And also, because that also then goes to his youth as well, because you got to remember he's 15 and they play on the fact that he's young really, really
I think
well.
he's 16, isn't he?
15 or 16.
Still in high school.
Yeah, still in high school.
They're going to
I think
push
I read
high
somewhere
school for
16.
ages.
Yeah. But he's got that youthfulness. You know, when you're a kid, you kind of trust your idols and you look up people that you look up to. It's the idealism.
Yeah.
And so, of course, if you've got Iron Man coming into your home saying, mate, you need to join me, or come with me, I can give you some new gadgets. It's praising you for your webbing, saying the textile strength and this is amazing. What's this for? Like actually interesting you. Well, you're going to go, yeah, I'm with you. I'll team up with you. And I thought they did that incredibly well. You know, in the fact that he joined up, but also then when you actually see his interactions with the other characters, the starstruckness, the youthful exuberance, basically. So Peter Parker. And fuck, that costume was good.
I love their reaction to him. It's
Yeah.
like everyone's got a fucking gimmick now.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
Well, how about when Iron Man, Tony Stark calls him into battle? It's just like, underoos.
Yeah.
That was great.
What I loved in that fight regarding Spider-Man more than anything was that they show him being just a kid and just in awe of everyone. It's like, I can't believe that I'm with these people. Like I'm holding my own with them.
Yeah.
But what I love more than anything is when the Winter Soldier throws the punch and he just, without flinching, just holds his arm back and actually twists his arm.
Yeah.
And looks at it and makes that comment that you mentioned before where it's, wow, you got a metal arm?
Yeah, wow, that's so cool.
Like he's not even stressed. Like it shows how strong he really is compared to some of these people.
And that's actually something that I love when I talk about how well they showed him in this movie. The way they showed his power, like there's the point there's that point. He webs, I think, both of Cap's arms and holds him back. And he's actually holding Captain America back as he's trying to get away. You've got him...
in that first meeting with Tony Stark, he mentions in passing his Spidey sense as well, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He mentions that, how he goes, my senses are so heightened, everything's very bright.
Sometimes I know when something's going to happen before it happens.
And they have that beautiful, and it actually made me so hard. Because you know how with the eyes, how they keep on changing?
Yeah.
In the comic book, if you've read the Spider-Man comic books, if something's about to happen off frame, eyes widen. Mm-hmm. There's a part, he's talking at the camera and he's saying, doing his Peter Parker or his Spider-Man thing. And then you see the eyes go, whoa, and he ducks and something comes out.
To be honest, I didn't even notice it.
Oh,
in the film.
dude, rewatch that movie just for that 1 second of film,
Right,
and it
okay.
is so cool.
All right, now, so we're all in agreement. Spider-Man was a good
it was
addition.
so
to the movie.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And done well. Done well.
Yeah, he was superfluous. He didn't need to be there.
No, I didn't think he needed to be there
But
anyway.
I think it was fine. He was a good addition,
Yes.
regardless. I was actually reading earlier. They Marvel weren't sure that they'd be able to get get Spidey into the movie. So earlier drafts, Spidey had a larger role, but they sort of decreased it and brought up Black Panther.
Yep.
So that's why Black Panther has such a significant role in the final movie, because they wrote him in to sort of make up for the lack of Spider-Man.
Nice.
Right, okay.
So perhaps Black Panther would have played the cameo role that Spider-Man did had things turned out differently.
Okay.
Yeah. So Spider-Man would have been more integral to the story.
Well, in saying that and the way that they've done Spider-Man in this movie, I like the fact that they've already addressed how he got his powers.
Yep.
How long has he been doing this?
Yep.
So that by the time Homecoming comes around, we don't need another fucking origin story.
Do you think they'll do it anyway?
No.
I think Marvel will probably have the sense not to, actually.
I don't think they will.
No, well, actually, no, hang on. No. It's still Sony doing the Spider-Man movie, isn't it?
No, it's
Oh,
Marvel
no, Marvel
Studios.
has creative control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all Sony has is distribution.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So basically, they're going to create the fuck out of this thing, and we've also just heard that Tony Stark,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Robert Downey Jr.'s signed on for Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, for at least a cameo.
Yeah,
I'm assuming there's going to be at least maybe a 10, 15-minute scene or number of scenes where he's helping him build his suit and maybe perhaps even guiding him.
I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up from the end of Civil War.
'Cause
Stark comes back to him and says, hey, you did good. And then that's where the story sort of takes off from there.
Well, I mean, do we want to spoil the cutscene?
Oh, the end
end scene?
The final
Now, I
one.
didn't actually see it. I've read about it. I've heard about it.
Oh, well, it's great because he's sitting in. Do you mind if we spoil?
No, go for it.
He's sitting in.
I already know it.
Yeah, he's
So
sitting
this
in.
is the second post-credit scene.
Yes, there's the final post-credit scene. He's sitting in his bed and, he's talking to Aunt May, and I love this dialogue as well. She's like, well, who hit you? And he's like,
Bully named Steve.
Yeah, a bully named Steve. He's from Brooklyn. And I love that little dialogue that they have as well where he goes, where are you from, kid? Queens, Brooklyn. That was great.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then something happens with on his web shooter. It's like flashing.
Yeah.
And then, he finally gets Aunt May out of the room and then he puts it out and it's virtually like a Spider-Man signal.
Yes.
Spider signal.
Yeah, it's like the spider signal. And
Which
so,
fans of the comic book will be familiar with.
exactly right. And it's cool because it's just shining on the roof. And I wonder if, like, obviously that's made by Tony Stark for him.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's going to have a link into when Tony Stark comes into the
I find it
Homecoming.
interesting that they put it on his web shooter rather than because traditionally in the comics it's on his belt.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it was used as a way of dazing criminals to stopping them in their path before he arrived.
Yeah, it was sort of, his intro move, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he slowly changed that to just using the camera and taking snapshots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. That could be just a way that that Tony Stark gets in contact with him, or maybe also a way that he can get in contact with Tony Stark. We don't know.
It kind of reminds me of the cartoon series, and I don't know
great
whether they actually did it in the comics or not. It's the one where
Talking
it's
about the 90s one?
Amazing Spider-Man, the latest one,
Okay.
where he's working with Shield.
You mean Spider-Man Unlimited?
Yeah, Spider-Man Unlimited.
Yes.
So in that they use his web shooters, have a holographic display, and every time they want to talk to him, it just appears.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wonder if they're going to use it in that kind of a sense.
They could do, yeah.
Probably.
I don't see much use of it as it used to be used in the comics.
I've got a feeling it's going to be a communication device. It'll be something for him to be in contact with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, to bring it back to Civil War.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like we're not quite done with the climactic battle scene.
No, we haven't even really touched the surface.
How good was Giant Man?
I know.
I was just about to bring it back to that.
I've actually got in here, like as one of my notes, Ant-Man's growth.
Yeah.
So in the movie itself, they're like, okay, we need to get the Quinjet. It's the only thing fast enough to get us to where we need to go.
Yeah.
We need a big distraction. And
Pun
Ant-Man just
intended.
takes it fucking really literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even says, I've only tried this once before.
In a lab.
Yeah.
And,
In a lab.
and I was sick or something.
Yeah, I think it was in a lab or
Yeah.
something
He basically says, I can only get it to work for a few minutes before I get sick or something or other.
Yeah.
And just before he does it, he mentions something like, in case I explode,
Yeah.
or something. I just find it interesting. But did anyone notice as well that it's his new costume?
Yes, it's his new suit.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize at first until he went big that it's his new costume, because the first thing you see is his eyes boggling inside the helmet.
Yeah.
And suddenly he becomes like almost dopey.
Yeah. And I actually like the fact that they made him, slower.
Yes.
So as the giant, yeah, exactly right. So he's there and he's moving. He's a lot slower. It was fucking well done. I think they did. Not only is he with his growth, as in that Giant Man thing, because it was fucking brilliant, but also
The Hawkeye shooting him into Iron Man's suit, that was fucking cool too.
Yeah, the Hawkeye shooting him into the suit, that was brilliant. And he's like, "Yep, that's your power going. That's this," and he's just taking it, unplugging things.
Stark's like, what the hell?
But it's his dialogue, like the monologue that he had.
Yeah.
He was actually a really good addition. To the movie.
I feel
he
like
lined it up a lot.
I feel like he finally got into his own with the character.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to the last film, it felt like he was a back seat.
Yes.
Well, as we've said before, the first Ant-Man movie wasn't a Paul Rudd movie. It was a Douglas movie.
Yes.
It was all about Douglas handing the reins on.
Yep.
So, ultimately now Paul Rudd as Ant-Man is, the focus of his sort of story, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel that he's finally come into his own as the character. I think he was very much the comic relief this time round.
Yeah, I texted you the other day, Carlos, and said he's sort of the Deadpool of Civil War. He had very much that style of humor.
Yeah.
Whereas Peter Parker was funny, but he didn't have that biting sort of
No.
satirical sort of turn to him that Ant-Man does.
Yeah, Peter Parker's humor is more so goofy, but kind of I'm intelligent and I'm just going to show you how smart I really am.
Yeah.
Whereas Ant-Man is more like, well, I'll take the situation for what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're different kinds of humor, but definitely he's very much kind of an answer to Deadpool. I have to agree with that one.
Yeah. What I like about it too is the fact that it's Paul Rudd, because it plays to his comedic sensibilities.
Yes.
In previous movies he's done and stuff, coming up in 40-Year-Old Virgin, the Avatar movies, that sort of thing. So it's very much in line with who you imagine him to be as a movie character, if you like.
Yeah. I also like how you've got all these heroes that are very competent, and then you throw Paul Rudd as Ant-Man into the mix, and it's almost like, what are you doing with these people? Because there's the part where the truck is thrown into War Machine. It turns out it's a fuel truck, and he goes, oh, shit, I thought it was a water truck.
Yeah, that's right.
He can't even tell the fucking difference.
Yeah.
And that was actually good as well because that's right. He has it as it was only like a Micro Machine toy. And he throws it and then he enlarges it. Fucking gold. Yeah. Actually, and they did look, and one thing I love with that scene as well is that it was a showing of their ability and their power.
It was definitely a showcase.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's kids sitting down with all their Marvel figurines going, all right, now Hawkeye's going to fight Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to shoot an arrow. It's going to have Ant-Man on it, and Ant-Man's going to jump into Iron Man's suit. And then the Scarlet Witch is going to use her power to hold down this person. Yeah, it's cool.
In thinking about how it was that War Machine actually fell and no one caught him, I'm starting to see how that happened now. Because as that fight scene goes on, you've got all certain characters getting taken out of commission. Yeah. So Ant-Man gets taken out.
Yep.
Spider-Man gets concussed.
Yep. And that was cute as well when he's like, stay down or I'm telling Aunt May.
Yeah. So Ant-Man also had a go at Iron Man's armor and started ripping sensors apart and so forth. So his suit's not working properly.
No.
What happens to Scarlet Witch?
Scarlet Witch was...
she ran with Captain and Bucky, remember, to get to the ship.
That's right.
But so she was holding up the part of the overpass that collapsed.
That's right. And she had to stay and hold it. And then I think she ends up just...
Did that weaken her or something?
Yeah.
Because the part...
Yes, because that's essentially that was the strongest demonstration of her powers to date.
Right.
So it's almost like she didn't know she was capable of that.
Yes. And then that was also...
And that wiped her out.
Well, yeah, because remember, she goes down and actually...
Vision
goes to her to help her out. Yeah. And that's when that also goes to how he's firing because he's like, Vision, stop, do something. And he's just turned and shot.
Yeah.
Right.
So
because it's all slowly, as I think about it, it's all slowly coming into place as to why everyone sort of just watched him fall rather than actually try and help him.
I was going to say, they did try though. There was the whole, both Iron Man and Falcon diverted and to try and catch him.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, his suit's fucked. Falcon had been probably... has a few issues with his suit as well.
What did you try and say?
I think I was going to say errors and
right,
but errors and issues at once. Errors.
Right. Speaking of Falcon,
yep.
How cool was the demonstration of his suit and the new things he could do?
Like Red Wing,
not just the drone, which I thought was a great addition.
Yeah,
I like the way that they did that too. So it was mechanical instead of having to tie in the subplot with the Falcon and the mental
Falcon.
thing.
Yeah.
The mental connection. It's just like, no, it's a security drone. It's it fits the world, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And it also fits
more
the tech
than,
of his suit as well.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what I liked more than anything was the fact that the way he uses his wings, it's not just to fly anymore.
Shield. When he has it as
he brings up a shield, then he turns it
done.
around to his back so he can work on the next thing.
Yep.
And I just love how they did that. He's become a joke of a character from long ago to something potentially good to now being something actually decent.
A joke of a character who we've got to remember in the comic books at one point was Captain America.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's only in the recent years.
Yeah, totally. And that's what I mean. That's what he deserves. Like, he deserves to actually be a key player because he is. And that's exactly right. That use of his suit was fucking amazing.
The use of his suit is great. I love it. The introduction of the drone, the fact that they actually made it look like a bird, I thought was clever. And I also like the banter between him and Black Widow.
Yeah.
Where she's like, I'm not calling that thing.
Red, it's Red Wing. I'm not calling it that.
What did we actually think? Just want to go back a little bit. What did we think of Bonesaw? Crossbones.
At the beginning of the movie.
Bonesaw is ready. Sorry, that's where I was getting confused.
I kind of felt like he, from the ads, see, this is actually one thing I think they did very well is they showed so many things in ads. It makes you feel like they're going to have more of a role, but then it's actually first scene. That was it. And then he was gone. I actually thought Bones, now you've got me fucking saying it. Crossbones was actually going to have more of a role. I did love his fucking outfit. Like the fact that he actually had a powered kind of suit so he could actually take on Captain America. I thought that was fucking cool. But really, throwaway character.
Yeah, I was going to say, he served a function for the plot. I mean, I don't think you really say much more about him. Which is
why you don't see more of him. It's basically, it's kind of like with the second Captain America film. right at the start on the barge with the character. I can't remember the character's name.
French guy.
The French guy that does all the kicks.
Yep.
And they brought another rubbish character in and just made him semi-okay, cool, that had a go with Captain America, but obviously didn't last. But no, I just wanted to go back to that and just see what you guys thought, considering we're talking about
the powers of people.
Powers and suits of people and the uses of those bits of technology.
Yeah. Just coming back to what you were saying, Heath, about the trailers.
Yep.
Tell you one thing I didn't like, and this is why I try to avoid anything beyond the first trailer these days before I go to see a movie. I don't know whether you guys noticed, but after Civil War was released, they started bringing out longer and longer trailers, and they started spoiling the storyline in the trailers.
Oh, see, I stopped watching after I saw the movie.
Right,
so there we go.
No, but I noticed a few of them on TV, and I'm like, well, shit, that's a bit too much of the climactic battle scene there, you know? Like, they just, they got a bit overboard, I think.
Trailers in general for the last God knows how many years have been spoiling movies for too long now, where I tend to just go with the teaser, maybe a second teaser, and leave it at that. Yeah. The moment they bring out a full-length trailer that's longer than a minute, then I'm worried.
True.
Anyway, that just annoyed me because I was like, for people who haven't seen it yet, you know, that's really spoilery. So, well, I guess we should move on to the climax. I will say one last thing about the big second act fight. I liked that they inserted it there.
Yep.
That the big climactic battle was the end of the second act.
Yeah.
And so the third act was back to the whole underpinning of it was the personalities.
Yeah.
It's Stark versus Cap, you know? And that's the fundamental underpinning of the entire movie. As we said, you know, it all escalated from this difference of opinion they had.
Okay, on that you've just said that. So you know how we get that where the characters that were, when I say the characters, so when Ant-Man, Falcon, and those that were left behind, how they're in the prison.
Yeah. What's the name of the prison again?
What did they end up calling it? I can't remember.
Iron Heights. No, that's
DC.
Blackgate. No, that's DC.
No. Well, it's not Area 42, which it was in the comics.
No, I can't remember actually.
Yeah. See, they couldn't use Area 42.
The barge.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. All right.
They couldn't use Area 42 because they don't have the rights to Fantastic Four.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, just more. So you had that scene, and you know he goes around to the different cells because he's kind of he's like, I know, because now he knows that the Winter Soldier didn't do the killings, that it was Zemo.
Yep.
And so he's there, and he goes to each cell. You know, he's talking to them, and each one's kind of, you know, Hawkeye does his little thing, going, you know, you can stab me in the back or something like that.
Yeah, they're all pissed off.
But then he goes to Falcon, okay? And now Falcon, he says to Falcon, he goes, look, and he says, you know, gives his spiel. Do you feel like that Falcon trusted him way too quickly?
No, I think it's more so the case that Falcon feels really guilty
about
for avoiding, like, protecting himself, but avoided the shot from Vision that caused Rhodes to be injured.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's feeling remorse for his action that ultimately costed someone else their possible life.
Yeah.
And even asks him, how is he doing?
Because this brings it back to the whole underlying theme of guilt. Superhero guilt, you know, the whole idea that there are unintended consequences to super heroic acts.
I see what you're saying, but I think
because he just gave up where Steve was. He's like, they're going here.
But I think it's the fact that he feels guilty for what happens to Rhodes.
Yep.
B, Iron Man goes to him, look, you know, I've taken out the audio from their sensors. They don't know we're having this conversation.
Yes.
He's already bending the rules.
Yeah.
Doing what Cap would have done.
Yeah.
And in which case it's like, okay, well,
if you're willing to do that for him.
Yeah.
But the other, mind you, I don't see Stark's motivation at that point being to get into a conflict with Cap. Because remember, he doesn't know that it was Bucky yet.
Yeah.
Like, so he, as far as Falcon is concerned, he was genuinely saying, look, I want to go, you know, solve this problem.
And you're 100% correct. Like, he was being absolutely genuine saying that to Falcon. He was. Yeah. But after that fight, you know, after all the stuff that had happened, you still have, like, all the other people involved, right, were just pretty much custard-tarted Stark. Then you get Steve Rogers, pretty much best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives him up very quickly without much convincing. I was hoping that maybe maybe if he
Yeah,
a
but-
bit more of an argument.
What are they going to do? Like it's you're approaching the end of the third act.
I know, and
here,
that's
like-
why it went so quickly. But
Yeah.
it's like,
But that's a pacing decision.
It was a
like
pacing
you could have
decision.
them argue for 20 minutes, but that would totally drop the inertia of the movie.
Yeah, true.
Maybe
Yeah.
there's a deleted scene there, but
Yeah. No,
at
true.
the end of the day, it's a movie.
The other
true.
thing too is, I mean, yeah, you're right. There could have been a couple of things done. Maybe he could have thrown him some evidence showing that Zemo's behind things that
well, he does show him that, doesn't he?
No, he doesn't. He just says.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Exactly. So he could have said, "Look, this is Zemo." Blah blah.
Actually,
blah, blah.
does he show his phone or something like that? I can't remember. But
yeah,
in any case, you're right. He could have tried to convince him, maybe pull him out of the cell and talk to him.
Yeah, something.
You know what I
But
mean?
it would have broken the pacing in the entire movie. Like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be escalating at that point. You don't stop to have a leisurely conversation for 15 minutes at the beginning of the third act of a climactic movie like Civil War.
Fair enough. I'm just.
I mean, like if you're going to nitpick that, then there's plenty of other things to nitpick as well. But the
thing
point is, you
yeah.
allow them to fall by the wayside because, again, it's a superhero movie. It needs to be paced. It needs to build.
Despite the fact, the underlining thing about this movie is the title is Civil War, and they're quite civilly having a discussion that is eventually going to. Yeah, I know it's a bad pun, but essentially that is what is happening throughout this movie.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They're civilly having a fight. Like they're pulling their punches. They're doing everything. They essentially are distracting one another. Team Cap essentially distract them all. All we need is the jet.
Yeah.
We need to get to Siberia.
Yeah, and all Team
Right.
Iron Man wants to do is just stop them.
It's just like, hey, can we just sit down and talk about this properly? Like, can we put down the shields? Can we put down the weapons? And can we just talk about this? If not, we have to bring you in.
Yeah. Yeah, look.
And that's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
That's why Tony goes to him, look, I want to talk to him. I want to put an end to this.
Yeah. And I think probably the reason why I'm nitpicking that one thing is because it's really hard to find fault in this movie at points. And, especially when it comes to things like pacing and the relationships between all the characters. It's just where I go, considering they were fighting up until a certain point, considering they were at such, not odds, but more at differences of ideology, I would have thought you could have had maybe an extra 2 minutes of screen time of some more convincing argument.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the fact that he feels guilty for what happened to Rhodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just wants to help.
No, fair enough.
He will always.
That's actually a really good point, though. I never
remember,
really thought
yeah,
that
even
whole
at
he was
that
trying to
point-
help Rhodes.
Yeah, even at that point, it's not like they're enemies yet.
No.
It's only in the final scene that it really cements the fact that they're on opposing sides
Yeah.
of, a divide that can't be talked away.
Yeah, sure.
So I think even up to that point, it was still a civil war.
Yeah.
And again, that reinforces the idea that Rhodes falling out of the sky was so jarring and unexpected because, again, as I said, like they didn't expect to actually be hurting each other at that point.
Yeah,
They're just
exactly.
like, are we still friends?
Yeah.
I mean, and going back earlier, I said that there are only really two characters that were all out for blood. One of which is Black Panther, the other which is the Winter Soldier when he's activated.
Yeah.
The two characters, they're the only ones in this whole movie that are really out for blood.
And like you said, it's only when Winter Soldier's activated.
Well, and Helmut, he's out for blood from the
but
beginning.
I mean, in terms of the Civil War itself,
Right, yeah.
they're the only two characters that are intentionally.
That are playing high stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever Captain America gets in the way of Black Panther trying to get to Bucky, you saw what he did to his shield, like vibranium on vibranium. It's he's not holding back. So when it comes to what happened to Rhodes, it's just like, okay, we've been playing nice. These are the only two characters that have really been out, bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
That's I think why it's more of a shock to all of them that the movie goes in that direction. It's just like, look, I just need to talk to him.
Yeah.
And in saying that, we get to the last stage of the film. Mm-hmm. And I find it also interesting that Black Panther has a jet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Where did that come from?
He's the
I do
king
get it.
of-
Yes, he's the king of a nation.
Yeah.
Surely he's got something.
Well, also, where did he get his suit from? It's established early on that he's immensely rich.
But it also actually, remember, he says about the suit, how it's something that passes on to Wakandan warriors and royalty. Like he actually does mention that that's what it's from, as to be a protector of the land.
So, but purely by virtue of the fact that suit was made, it means the Wakanda is quite a prosperous nation.
Yeah.
You know?
It's meant to be one of the wealthiest, wealthy nation.
Which I find interesting. Like the
Well, hang on. Look at their hideaway at the end.
Yeah.
Like a high-tech fucking jungle hideaway.
Yeah. Well, actually,
that wouldn't have been cheap to
Well,
make.
that's exactly right. But they also always mention how Wakanda's advanced in virtually everything. Anyway,
Well,
continue.
they also
So that's why he has a jet, all right?
all right,
Leave
fine,
Black
all
Panther
right.
alone.
I find it interesting as well that his suit is
completely vibranium.
but it allows him to actually move.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fully articulating.
Yeah, whereas every incarnation of vibranium that we've seen has been very strong and rigid, except for Vision.
That would probably be because, as being the main source of vibranium Wakanda, they've probably done a lot more research in it. And so they're probably a lot more advanced in the way that it can be used.
No, exactly right. But what I'm saying is that I like the fact that the only people that know how to actually use vibranium to its potential are the Wakandans.
Yeah. No, that's on purpose, of course.
And except for Ultron, who was supposed to be, is a different story. He was an amalgamation of intelligence that is far superior than any one person.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that we see the same result. They are the ones that would know how to use it.
Yes.
Anyway, going to the last stage of this film.
Yes.
We mentioned it before how the video was rather that sends Tony off the edge was rather convenient.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed that it kind of almost goes back to BVS, but one thing that I noticed that triggers him is that he's always had this issue. Tony Stark's always had the problem with his dad.
Yeah.
Trying to get acceptance of his dad, always had that problem. But deep down, he's like, well, you can kind of see that he was who he was, and I'll never change that. And I have resentment to my father, but I also loved him. But more than anything, my mother was the innocent one out of the whole thing.
Yep.
Because what throws him off the edge isn't the fact that Bucky, as the Winter Soldier on that mission, killed his dad and stole the serum.
Oh, yeah. He's like, why did you have to kill her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that my mother is gone. He killed my mum. That's the only thing he says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he literally says that to him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's like, why did you have to kill her?
Yeah.
But
that's what throws him off the edge.
But I like as well, it's like, because doesn't Captain America actually even say to him, he was under control. It wasn't him. It was a totally different person. And which is great, actually, because it does.
Which also drives home the whole idea of his argument once again.
Oh, yeah, exactly, because you need control, and exactly right.
You know what it is? Stark's evolution across the movie is a compliment to Black Panther's. So Black Panther started out with retribution and revenge on his mind, ended up reconciling and finding some form of redemption, even going as far to protect Bucky and Cap at the end, whereas Stark's the opposite direction.
Yeah.
He started out trying to be civil and not escalate, but by the end, he's become high on revenge.
Exactly it. And I actually did have to say I liked that little nod of one. You had the beginning where you had the beautiful CG of.
I was thinking about that just then.
Or de-aging Robert Downey Jr.
They've gone a long way with this one. Before the first time I remember seeing this technology was with
Tron.
No, X-Men 3.
Oh, okay.
With Xavier and Eric. So Magneto,
Yeah.
They went back to, I don't know how many years, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And de-aged them, made them look rather young, no wrinkles, no nothing. And it was eerie seeing it, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've seen other incarnations.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Tron was before X-Men 3, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's obviously that's the
tech.
No, the order in which you viewed the movies.
Yeah.
But
and then you had it obviously with Michael Douglas, where it pretty much looked like you were watching Wall Street.
Yeah, but to see how far back they went with Robert Downey Jr., it was eerie.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I think I heard on a podcast someone say, it's pretty much the Robert Downey Jr. that you see in like movies. Was it? Oh, what movie was he in? Fuck, it's killing me.
He was a brat packer, wasn't he?
He was a brat packer. oh, fuck, it's killing me.
Anyway.
80s film. Anyway, where it looks exactly like that. And
So
I
it
know,
looks like he did in the 80s.
exactly right. And I'm going, fuck, they did a great job on that. And that was beautiful. But it was that beautiful nod to, he saying that's the last thing he got to say to his parents.
Yeah.
And then we seeing that, that's
No,
what happened
that's
to them.
he wish he'd said that.
No, that's
Remember?
right.
Yeah.
He wished he had said that to his parents.
I did notice though that they only used that very sparingly. There wasn't much movement on his behalf. He literally only walks towards camera.
Yes.
So they were obviously very careful not to overplay that effect.
Yes.
So because obviously, it's not going to be seamless. So I like the restraint they showed in using that.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people, I think you'll find, are referring it to Less Than Zero.
That's the word. Yeah, that's the movie.
Oh, the movie of the Bret Easton Ellis novel.
I don't know.
It is.
But yeah, no, I found the scene itself quite jarring. Like you can see like where it doesn't work so well. But what I don't know if you mentioned this already, but what I found interesting that sort of brought it back into balance was the fact that you see him in the back of the frame.
Yeah.
When he comes in, and you no longer feel that it's just wrong. It actually, your brain no longer is fighting that notion of that just looks completely fake. We know what he should look like.
Yeah.
And it helps see the real Tony Stark stand behind, and it breaks that illusion. So now
the other thing too is that they pass it off as a hologram.
Yes.
But I think we're getting stuck on this. Like, this is only a minor detail.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it was also that whole, because the reason why we're trying to say that is that how it connects into the turning point for Tony.
The final scene.
And being there that we actually see now what he couldn't say to his father, but also with that kind of what he was holding on to.
Yeah.
And then to see now that he finds out that the reason why, well, not the reason, but how his parents got killed.
The emotional escalation.
Exactly
at that
right.
point.
Exactly right. Yeah, and that was and that was a great little battle scene as well. The fight between Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Iron Man.
Yeah.
The throwing of the shield, the hyper beams on the shield as well.
Yeah.
Fuck, it looks
Throwback
so
to
good.
It shows
Civil War comic. Yeah,
It shows how everything has culminated to a series of emotions right towards the end.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. I like the fact that it takes the two of them to take him down. It shows as well that at this stage, like, there's so much emotion going into it. It's Iron Man is basically, I'm going to kill him. He's killed my mum. That's it.
Yeah.
Whereas Cap is like, he's my friend. If you even try, I'm going to have to do something about it, because remember when you think about it, Bucky is the last thing he's got that links him to the past.
Yeah.
He's lost everything else. Peggy dies at the start.
Yep.
So he's got no...
Spoiler.
Yeah, so he's got no one left to remind him of where he's come from.
Yeah.
So if Iron Man takes that away from him, he's truly going to feel alone. So he's going to protect his friend. He's going to protect what anchors him in this place. And so that visceral sort of engagement is like, the tension is really there. Like I really felt it. What I also like is the fact that Tony Stark is so blind with rage that they have to strip him down one piece of his tech at a time.
Yeah.
You know what it is? By the end, he goes full Vader and caps Obi-Wan. You were meant to be the chosen one.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Do you reckon
yeah.
it's
Well, I mean,
much?
that's ultimately what it is. It's
Right,
Stark's sort of escalation into just emotional excess.
Right.
That's a bad way of putting it. It's Stark's escalation, into just rage, completely illogical rage. And like I said, like, there's a counterpoint to Panther's
Maybe we
storyline.
should have gotten them to write the prequels.
Yeah, well, maybe
do-
they could do a reboot of the prequels.
No.
So when the fight comes to its end, did we feel satisfied with the way that it ended? That the fact that
It brought everything full circle for me.
Yeah.
So Stark's like, my dad made you that shield. Cap drops it and just walks off.
you don't
Yeah,
deserve
Like,
it. Okay, fine. Here you have it.
It's that perfect sort of tying off of all the emotional sort of baggage that's been circulating through the whole movie. The reason Stark goes crazy is because Bucky killed his parents. Like, it capped everything off nicely.
Yeah.
Pun intended. Yeah. So I don't know. Initially, I was a little underwhelmed with the resolution of this movie because I was sort of like, well, that's it. Now we've got to wait for what is it? Infinity War.
Infinity War should be the next time that we see Captain America. Yes.
Yeah. So
Well, it's no longer going to be called Infinity War. They're going to have new names now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
It's
initially it
possible
was
we might
under.
see them earlier.
We
Through
don't know yet.
Ant-Man or
Well, also we might see Chris Evans in Black Panther. We don't know.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. So initially I was a little underwhelmed, but then in retrospect, I was sort of like, well, no, that's sort of the right spot to leave it at this point, like to come back to our favorite horse at the moment that we like to flog. The difference between this and BVS, they just sort of dispensed with it by yelling Martha at each other. And then went on to have your stereotypical big battle against the bad guy sort of thing. It's almost as if Civil War bucks the trend of traditional superhero movies by saying, no, instead of having this climactic battle at the end, we'll throw that in the second act. And the third act is about this personal, interpersonal conflict, know. That's the magnum opus of this movie is the relationship between those two characters.
Yeah.
I also like how they resolve the end of the film itself. The fact that they've had this altercation that Zemo eventually got what he wanted. He broke up the original band that formed the Avengers, and they've got their differences now. But at the same token, like Captain America writes Tony Stark the letter, and he says, look, these are the real reasons why I've chosen this path, and I can't be persuaded otherwise. Earlier in the film, he was ready to sign the Accords. He's like, you know what, you're right. And then when he realized that Scarlet Witch was under house arrest, he's like, you know what, you're just twisting everything. So when it came to the very end where he writes him the letter and he says, look, this is the reasons why I'm doing this and I can't be persuaded. I hope you understand. What we had was a good thing, but unfortunately we just can't do it anymore. But if you ever, I have my trust in people rather than the government. But if you need my help, here's my phone.
Yeah.
Call, use the phone, call me, and I'll be around. And I like that resolution. Like there's so much history between the two that it's not forgotten about. It's not completely thrown away. It's just two friends that just don't quite see eye to eye anymore. They're not completely against each other. It's just, you know what, it's time to just separate and you go your way, I'll go mine. But if you need a hand, you just give me a call.
Yeah, it's like let's go our separate ways. And one thing actually I found with this as well is that it kind of also tied off, like it being the beginning of phase 3, it actually tied off a lot of phase 1 and 2.
Well, it needed to.
Oh, it totally needed to.
Being the beginning of phase 3, yeah.
Absolutely. But you know how like when phase 2 started, it was just like more of a continuation?
Yeah.
This more felt like a tie-off. You had Tony Stark resolve with the loss of his parents.
Yeah.
Which was brought
Comes to
into
a
us
resolution,
from all the way from
first
first Iron Man.
Yeah.
You had with the death of Peggy Carter, you had the thing that was holding the love that was holding Steve Rogers back dying. So that kind of tied that off. Pretty much what I like that they did with this is they just started anew.
Yeah.
They pretty much planted brand new seed and they're going to let it germinate.
Because I think they need to at this point as well. Like, I'm sure Marvel understands the fact that not all these actors are going to continue playing these roles forever, No. So they need to get to a point where they can tie off these storylines and move on without they're feeling like there's a massive gap in the universe without them.
You're onto something there because Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, their contracts are running up.
Yeah.
Well, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. is no longer on contract. He's on a per film basis.
Yeah. So
hence the reason why he's getting paid all the money.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's getting to a point where they almost can't afford him.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I mean, they're making decent money. I'm sure they can. But it's going to get to a point where if Chris Evans does the same thing, like, how can they afford them?
Exactly. You can't have a movie like this being made where you've got each actor on $20 to $40 million a piece.
Yeah. The budget goes through the roof.
Exactly. You'd be spending $200 million on actors.
So,
if not more.
On top of that, like the only way around it would be to give them back in. And there's no way that they would give them back in.
No.
Not Disney, no.
No. Which is why they're already setting up the B team for the Avengers.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So it fits in with the real world implications of having these actors play these characters for so long. Is that eventually they will reach the end of their tenure, if you like.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which begs the question of, will we really see the A-team characters in the next Avengers film.
I think I've actually got a feeling that the next Avengers films will be the end of the A-team characters.
Do you reckon they'll hold on to them just for those two?
Oh, yeah. I've got a feeling that they will make sure that they throw money at certain actors to make sure that they're back, but that would be our last. That will be the opus.
Right.
I'm just going to throw it out there. I think I'm going to be sick of superhero movies by the time we get to the second part of Infinity War.
Oh, not me.
I'm already, in all honesty, I'm already starting to feel
I'm
it.
feeling the fatigue, I think,
Really?
as
Oh,
well,
man, I'm fucking
because
like
there's
bone
so many at the same time, like BVS was a month ago. We've got a Civil War now. Apocalypse is coming next
2
week,
weeks.
or the week
Actually,
after
no,
that.
next week. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, and then we had Deadpool earlier in the year. We got Doctor Strange later on in the year. Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad is coming out soon.
Yep.
I feel like we're reaching a saturation point.
I think we already hit it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think we already
Civil
hit it.
War is the epitome of the saturation point.
But,
But what's interesting is they pulled that off.
Yeah,
Without it feeling tired or.
So for me, I feel like I'm already hitting it because most of the movies that are coming out are essentially just superhero movies. Like, they're the big blockbusters that are getting promoted and pushed and created, and they're the only ones that seem to be the original movies. Whereas outside of the big blockbusters, it's just independent films because no one can afford them anymore.
Yeah.
It's because the studio system's broken. You don't have big A-list stars outside of superhero movies anymore. Like, you don't sell a movie on the back of having Julia Roberts in it and Robert De Niro or something.
Yeah.
The entire studio system has changed, and the studios haven't caught up with it.
Yeah.
So that's why, like you said, indie films are where you're seeing a lot of innovation and a lot of, even I suppose, star power.
Yeah.
Because that's the avenues that actors and writers and directors have to pursue their ideas these days.
Yeah.
In saying that, though, I've grown up reading these sort of comics and so forth. So for me, I love the genre. So I will always go see it, but I am getting tired of them. But like I said, Heath, I will still go see it.
Yeah.
But I am starting to get
like,
slowly. It's
another
happening.
one.
It happened.
Another one.
It happened with Ant-Man. A lot of people liked Ant-Man. I didn't particularly like it. I think it started to feel short, and I started to really feel it from there. But in saying that, there is one movie in particular that I am really looking forward to from Marvel, and that is Doctor Strange.
Oh, it'd be
Because
foray into the mystical would be great.
yes, they've got a horror director on board, so hopefully they'll bring some of those elements into it and change things up a little bit, because the stock standard superheroes that we've been getting are starting to just be on repeat.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice I'm actually feeling good to finally to have something a little bit different come through.
Yeah.
In saying that, Marvel is now considering pushing 3 movies a year as opposed to 2.
Yeah, they're going to have 2 this year, 3 next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be even more stuff coming through.
Well, let's see where we are in. I think it'll be a grand total of 3 years' time by the time that phase 3 is finished.
No, I think even further. They've forecast into 2020.
Have they?
Yeah, with movies.
Well, yeah. So okay, so that
Aside from Inhumans being pulled off the list.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so there you go. So okay, well, the next 4 years' time, we can revisit this question.
But don't forget, DC's trying to ramp up theirs.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, ramp it up, yet at the same time taking things away. It's like, seriously, their release schedule now is completely fucked.
It's because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's because they went, oh shit, we didn't make $1 billion.
Anyway, I think it's time to wrap up on this one.
Yeah, we probably should.
You probably should.
I always wrap up, baby.
You would do that, wouldn't you?
Anyway.
All right, so we'll start with you, Heath.
yeah. We'll start with
Look,
you.
I mean, I'm not going to go. I was going to say, well, actually, I could keep on going through what I loved about this movie, but I think I've already said it. I thought it was great. The only thing actually I didn't mention is I did love Vision's power set when they actually had him using all of his powers. I think it looks fucking amazing. His phase shifting, his use of his what do they call that thing? Mind Stone, the whole shebang. He looked fucking amazing. It was great. The entire movie
And the
looked
sweaters, by the way.
The sweaters were gold. So good.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing, I think the way that it did every character was great. I think every character got a good amount of screen time. It was fantastic. One thing I didn't like about it, and this is such a nitpicky thing as well, I'm a big fan of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a little reference especially considering the fact that the big thing in S.H.I.E.L.D. at the moment is enhanced people running rampant.
Right.
So wouldn't that be something that you'd want to have a law that brings these sorts of people under record? I think it'd be an easy tie-in. I don't know why it was thrown away. I've got no idea.
I think
I
maybe
think that's
it
more
was
of
just
an Avengers thing tying in with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, and S.H.I.E.L.D. generally ties in with the movies. But
Yeah.
I thought you could, considering it's a big universe, you could have tied something.
I think it's also too many characters.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, I think they reached saturation point
I'm not
as
even.
was.
Oh no, I
as
wasn't
is.
even say throw a character in there.
Yeah.
Have a mention.
Yeah, okay.
Have a mention as well. It's like we've got the Inhuman epidemic going
I have,
on.
the Secretary of State, what's his name, Ross?
Yeah,
have
Ross.
him mention it. Yeah,
saying
Thank
we've
you.
got more Inhumans.
Yeah, I've got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on my back. They won't shut up about these Inhumans.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. So a throwaway
That's fair.
comment would have been good. But look, that's such a nitpicky thing. I think everything bad that I can think of is a nitpicky thing. And more than anything, it's made me really, really hopeful for the next Spider-Man film, and it's made me really, really hopeful for the next Black Panther film because I think they're going to be. Well, the first, actually, you're right. Sorry, the first Black Panther
the next film with him in it.
Because I love that character and I thought they did it very, very well. So that's me. I give this. Well, I did have a couple of nitpicks, so 4.5 bananas.
4.5.
Yep.
Nice.
Works. Well, I'll just jump in then if Carlos isn't going to introduce me.
Well,
Dan, what about you, buddy?
segue.
Well, I was going to. I'm just writing this down.
No, that's fine. Go fuck yourself.
Jesus.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, I...
Hold on. Dan, what do you think?
Well, I'm not going to tell you now.
Okay, well then I'll go.
No. All right.
Wait.
Yeah, look, this was a really fun movie. I think some people are a little too high in their praise of it, saying it's the best superhero movie ever, or it's the best superhero movie Marvel's ever done. For me, that's not necessarily true. I had more fun with the first Avengers movie. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was a better self-contained story. But in saying that, it was the right movie for Marvel to make at this point in time. They consolidated the storylines perfectly, it as they've always done, worked in the different movies and TV spin-offs and whatever. All the characters were great. I'm glad Spidey made it in because I just had a grin on my face the whole time he was on screen. Yeah. Like you said, Heath, Black Panther was fucking awesome. Yep. I touched on a few sort of minor storyline issues with the plot, but... And again, to bring it back to a comparison to BVS, in BVS, the problems were so jarring that you couldn't sort of let them go the whole time. You're sort of like, but that doesn't make sense. Why are they yelling Martha? That's not the way you resolve a conflict. Whereas in Civil War, it was paced such that the action continued to escalate. So any minor problem you might have had with plotline or story, you sort of falls by the wayside as more action and the actual the eventual conclusion works its way onto screen. So yeah, overall very fun. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm going to say 3.5 stars.
3.5. Nice. Personally, I agree with you, Dan. I don't think this is the best movie that they've done, but I do like the fact that they're drawing in so much of what you've already seen into the history, which makes it work as the comparison to BVS, where that fell apart because they've tried to cram so much, but there's no history to back it up. So there's so much information thrown in your face and it doesn't quite make sense. Whereas this one, if you're coming in on this movie without seeing the others, I wonder whether it would actually make sense to people. Whereas if you have been watching at least majority of the movies leading into this one, you have more of an understanding of the characters and where they're coming from, why they're making their particular decisions. The movie itself is good. I really enjoyed it. I really can't put faults to this movie aside from maybe a couple of plot points that was convenient to forget or leave out. Whereas when you really look at the situations that what they're being accused for in the past, for example, with their actions didn't quite make sense to me. But that's just my interpretation of it. I really enjoyed it. I think visually it's a stunning movie. I think the effects are great. The makeup is excellent, especially on Vision. You finally got to really see the detail in his face.
Yeah.
He looks amazing. Sweaters, love it.
The richness of the characters are really brought out in this movie as well. I do agree with you as well that in saying that if in terms of the Captain America movies, I think the second one's probably my favorite in terms of the stakes and the tension. I feel more of it in that one than I do in this one. But I do feel the pain of certain characters, for example, Tony Stark, when he finally has an answer as to why his parents were killed. Whereas although he always thought they just were in a road accident.
Yeah.
So I think I just put a hole in my own argument. But in saying that, I did like this movie. I think this movie is worth 3 stars, 3 bananas.
Yeah. One last thing I did want to say. I think this is the most mature superhero movie Marvel's made to date as well.
Yes, I
And
can agree with
that's
that.
an important distinction to make because DC tried to do that from the outset with BVS and failed catastrophically, whereas Marvel, it's not that they couldn't have done it before, but they made a conscious choice with this to sort of deal with larger issues and be more mature about the way they treat the characters, and I think they pulled it off really well.
I think so too. All right, so that was our discussion on Captain America Civil War, and we'll see you next week. But before anything...
Next fortnight.
Yeah, a couple of
Keep
weeks from now.
saying
even.
next week. Too many episodes of it.
We'll see you in the future.
We'll see you in a fortnight, guys.
Not too distant future.
But before doing so, if you want to know what the answer is for this week's movie, Who Am I? Just hang on to the end of the theme song and you will find out. Anyway, bye!
Ciao.
See ya.
And you've stayed on to find out what this week's movie, Who Am I, is. And the answer is...
Oompa
Hostel.
loompa doopity doo. I've got another puzzle for you. You can leave
Shut the fuck
it
up!
at-
No, it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971, starring Gene Wilder and a couple of others.
Yeah, that's the one. The only one you really have to worry about.
That's about it.
Yeah, I don't think any of the children had any roles beyond that movie, did they? Anything
have
of
no
significance? I think Veruca Salt did something later in life, but nothing of note.
But yeah,
She's no Gene
crazy
Wilder.
movie.
Oh, great movie. I still, to this day, I will rewatch that movie and
The
fucking
tunnel
sing along to it.
scene.
Oh, I
the
love
tunnel
it.
scene is like
Crazy boat ride.
Yeah, the LSD trip.
Yeah.
That is still the most potentially traumatic scene I've ever seen in what's supposedly a kids movie.
When you see like the
Yeah.
dead animals. And
Yeah,
everything,
like they're literally. It was literally a bad acid trip.
Yeah. Oh, and the little rhyme he sings as it's going on,
Yes,
fucking
yeah.
haunting. And I love the actually all the lines.
Faster and faster and faster. Yeah.
All the lines that Gene Wilder has in this movie, I still love the, when Augustus Gloop is stuck in the thing, and he goes, "Oh, the suspense is horrible. I hope it'll last." It's so fucking creepy. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows you how much how unhinged this character is. Like he is completely separated from the world.
Totally.
Like he has been locked away in his factory for way too long.
way too long.
You get nothing.
Yeah. Good day, sir.
All right, guys, we are the Theatre Gorillas. We'll see you in a fortnight. Bye.
See ya.
Oh.
This podcast is recorded and produced by Theatre Gorillas. Edited by Dan Clark.
Error.
I have to say, this is my personal opinion.
Opinion.
I forgot my train of thought on this, but
Fucking insane.